Another great question here. Women treatment
in the ultra-Orthodox
communities. This is. I'm saying this is. If you ever hear the when people say that doctors have terrible handwriting, try reading this.
I saw that handwriting all through elementary school.
I said that doctors have terrible handwriting.
And then it was ruined. We didn't have computers and stuff.
Okay, so mistreatment of women. I don't know the question either. What I'll respond to the question with the classic, Bernie, did you stop hitting your wife yet? There's an assumption baked into the question, and that is that what you call what's it, ultra-Orthodox or Orthodox mistreatment of women? I don't know what you're referring to specifically.
I'll give you an example.
Give you an example, okay.
We were in the Dead Sea. It's 110 degrees. The man is swimming wonderfully in the pool, and the wife has got covered from head to toe in black, sitting on the side.
That's mistreatment of women.
That's mistreatment of women.
Work on her chin that way.
Yeah. So we know that kind of thing.
Where okay, so that doesn't sound as bad. So let's talk about kind of what the Torah says about women, or let's kind of give it an insight as to how thousands of years ago the attitude and the laws of the Jewish way of life were, I think, radically different in the extent of, number one, the rights granted to women, the protections granted to women, and the responsibilities placed on the men to fulfill those rights. The ksuba, which is the document of marital agreement, basically, that every Jewish family must sign, and if they lose it, they have to find one right away. They can't be together once they have it. Is a totally one-sided document. On one side is the rights of the woman. The other side is the responsibilities of the man. There's no rights for the man, and there's almost no responsibilities for the woman. The man is tasked with fulfilling his wife's needs, whims, and desires. And the woman, by law, as guaranteed by the contract, can actually come to court, and the court would force the man to fulfill what he is obligated to do. One of the rights, number one, the man has to take care of her financially. He has to buy her clothing, it says, buy her jewelry. He has to show emotional support. He is obligated on matters of intimacy. Like a woman should go to the court and say, my husband is not sleeping with me frequently enough, and they would force him to do so. Just, this is thousands of years ago.
That's never happened in 1,000 years.
Who says it never happened?
Might not be that ruled in. If the rule was opposite, it would happen.
I don't know about that.
No, the court would use everything at its disposal. And what the court uses, it would enforce it. All these things are enforceable. The woman could choose whether or not she wants to have, married filing jointly, thus to share assets, but the responsibility goes onto her husband. Or if she chooses, she could keep she could have her own checking account and her own bank account, and then and she'll take care of herself. I mean, she has the options. The husband has no options. And this is, and again, like responsibilities were always shifted towards the man, and rights were given to the woman. This extended to many, many areas. Like in the Jewish world, we had a woman as a leader, which is unprecedented. 2,800 years ago, we have Devorah. She was the leader of the people. We have Abraham being told that his, when your wife tells you something, you listen to her. She supersedes him. So we have great women leaders that are held in, in the highest esteem. The Torah tells us, I think this is also way beyond, or, light years ahead of the way the general society was, about the emotional needs of women. I think today, you have basically two different opinions, where, the feminist opinion where, where the women are no different. That women should be allowed to be firefighters, and who cares they can't carry 60 pounds and whatever. And plus a that there's this kind of movement to try to make women no different than men, but also like this opposite movement where women are like, the women power, whatever. But the Torah tells us kind of in detail what women need emotionally. The Torah clearly is of the belief that women are different, and thus respond differently and have emotional needs. And Torah like instructs men how to fulfill the emotional needs of your wife. It tells you what to do, and you look at the success rates of marriages in the general world, and it's just alarming how many people and how many marriages just flunk. They just, and divorce rates and the amount of money spent on alimony and child support and defense and the divorce attorneys, perhaps we could say is because, the Torah is telling us what pitfalls will befall someone if they don't know how to treat their wives, and how to respect them and how to honor them. And the Talmud says the husband is tasked to honor her like himself, and to love her like himself, and to honor her more than himself. These ideas of treating women, putting women on a pedestal. Well, not a pedestal sounds bad, but the kind of the status and the appreciation that a man has to have for his wife. These are things that are already baked into law and to the Jewish consciousness for millennia. So I think to say that Jews who are observant to that way of life are mistreating women, I think it's a big mistake. Which women get mistreated? I think you look at what happens to women across in campuses across America, where they get objectified. And they get raped by the tens of thousands every year across America. That's mistreatment of women. Where if a husband does not know how to take care of his wife, doesn't know what she needs, doesn't know how to respond to her, doesn't give her the basics of what she needs to function, that's mistreatment of women. I think that the modesty that has been part and parcel of Jewish womanhood for centuries. You think of so is it sweaty? Maybe. Is it hot sometimes I wouldn't dress fully in black, but are there sacrifices that the women traditionally have made to preserve who they are as humans, and to not fall in the trap of being objectified as sexual objects, for the what the Torah, like the Torah describes. You say things that'll shock you guys, but how the Torah instructs men to respond to women intimately. How the Torah just what the Torah said, these insane things the Torah says that. How to make sure that the man's not the only one that's satisfied. That's what it says and it describes in detail what you're supposed to do. And how if someone doesn't do that, he is encroaching on his responsibilities. And like we said, the woman theoretically has the rights to demand that. He's not fulfilling his duty, So to say that women are mistreated, I think that the premise is not true. I think I would argue that in no other community in the world than the community that the Torah envisions are women being treated as well as they are in that community. I think when you have a traditional perspective on life, you always run into the problems of women should stay in the kitchen, all that nonsense. Of course, women across the world have evolved, and they have evolved in every community. And most women today, they go to school and they have careers and they're professionals, and they have a whole life outside of their family, and it's been But that's
some really
across the board.
Some very like Satmars and some really restrictive.
Listen.
Ultra Orthodox community.
Remember those people, the men are wearing also these fur hats. Yeah, they're also sweltering in the heat.
Yeah.
I'm not going to cast judgment on these communities. They have a way that they work. Yeah. They have a rhythm. There's a method to the madness. Yeah. But to say that, I think we can say safely, in any community that follows the Torah, the women are being treated very, very well, and better than their counterparts. Where if you look at just the divorce rates amongst the different communities, I think the more traditional someone is, and the more kind of the more traditional, the more of the attitude that they have in line with what the Torah, the better off they are. The women are going to be. So yes, are some what you call ultra Orthodox women? Are they sweltering in the heat? Yes. Okay, some ultra Orthodox men are as well. So what of it?
That was just a simple example.
Yeah.
Of an overall.
Yeah, but what overall?
Maybe some of it's wrong that I've heard about the Hasidic, primarily Hasidic community, that the men really mistreat their wives.
Listen, if
they're always outliers, though.
I think if a man beats his wife, we don't defend the indefensible. If someone quote unquote checks the box as ultra Orthodox and goes and wears a Hasidic hat and whatnot, and he beats his wife, what does that say about him? What if someone's too clever in business? Oh, you see these guys, they're too clever in business, or in the mikvahs, what happens in these mikvahs? By the way, I don't think any kids should be going to mikvahs, but somehow these communities that they adopt, they embrace that. We don't defend the indefensible. If someone does things that are wrong, I think they should be called out for it. We don't, there shouldn't be any wholesale acceptance of any misdeeds. Now, when it comes to mistreatment of women, if someone hits their wife, how can someone hit their wife? I don't get it. That's abuse, and that someone should be vilified.
But in the Hasidic community, they all take, they pay off from what I understand, they pay off the politicians, and they don't bother them when it comes to crime and stuff. Politicians get their vote in block.
There's not enough of a. Is there enough of a Hasidic community?
In Williamsburg, we're talking about Williamsburg.
I remember
about New York.
Yeah, I remember in the year 2000, so Hillary Clinton was running for Senate.
Yeah, she got those guys up in
Kiryas Joel. Yes, so there's this one community like 20, 30,000 Satmar Hasidim. So the Rebbe decided that we're all voting for Hillary. They had an agreement. There were less than 10 votes for Lazio, whatever his name was, Rick Lazio, the other guy. Less than 10 votes out of thousands upon thousands upon thousands. Listen. Yeah. Okay. Listen. If there is mistreatment, we don't defend it. And I always say, what do you say about the Orthodox Jew who eats pork in Yom Kippur or beats his wife? Maybe they're not following what the Torah outlines. Look what the Torah says. So yes, if you see someone who's a charlatan who's raising money and for kids with cancer, and then he uses the money for his yacht trip and to pay for his gambling expenses, are you going to defend that? Of course not.
No, but we had, for example, in November there was an article, November 11th, New York Magazine, about something that happened in 2008 in the Hasidic community in New York. This very high up gentleman was abusing boys.
This was a big story. I remember reading about the story. And they went.
The father of one of the kids who actually complained, he ended up being chastised, even though I guess it was Schneerson or whoever.
Schneerson's been dead for 20 years. Okay.
And it was the guy after him who said it was all right for him to go to the police. He goes to the police, and then his whole life was ruined after that.
Listen.
And they were going to send this guy to Israel, the one who did the deal. Send him to Israel.
So there's hypocrites, but do we have don't we have naturally higher standards for people who put themselves out as pious? Or
absolutely, and you know what, and that's why
more as Jews when we see a Jew who purportedly follows Torah.
Listen, 100%.
Okay, and that doesn't reflect the scripture.
And it doesn't also reflect the data, because one such event, how many kids are raped every day in Houston?
Worldwide, yeah.
Probably hundreds.
Yeah.
Probably hundreds of kids are raped a day in Houston. Probably.
Yeah.
That's not a story. You have a guy who allegedly is this really pious guy that makes the news and there's articles, but it makes people think that it's more widespread than it is.
No, it wasn't necessarily widespread. It's the way they.
Yeah, and the cover up. Listen.
Any Jew that, whether it's Michael Milken or Ivan Boesky or
Bernie
Madoff, that happens all the time. That's not.
But we're responsible for that. All Jews are responsible for every other Jew.
I think we maybe exaggerate is not the word, but it besmirches our religion, and so those kinds of folks who are acting clearly outside the bounds, it's a lot more bothersome to.
It's very bothering, and if there's a cover up.
There's priests that do bad things, and I
remember Bugsy Siegel.
Bugsy Siegel, in the sense, okay, I'll give you the example. Jonathan Pollard, the guy in prison, Navy intelligence. Okay, there's a movement in Israel and even in this country to get him released.
Yeah.
And I personally think that he shouldn't be released. I think that 3 presidents, Reagan, Clinton, and
4 presidents,
Bush and Obama, have both parties. Have found
5 presidents.
5 presidents.
Reagan, 2 Bushes, Clinton, and Obama.
Excuse me. Yes, my math is off. I don't think he should be released because
Duke it out.
All the presidents have made a decision of both parties, apparently, that he is more of a threat than other people think he is to disclosing more.
Well, I think that the argument with Pollard is going to be that it was unfair punishment, because people of comparable crimes. That's the argument. I'm not taking a stance to the issue. I don't know.
I just think we do ourselves a disservice when we defend one of our own that's scum.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I also think, this hammers home our point. I had a student of mine who said, listen, his mother was sick, and there's one guy who came and allegedly as some sort of healer of sorts, and he was going to teach her Kabbalah and giving her amulets, and said this was gonna heal her. Charlatan. And this guy's scarred for life because he thinks that people that come under the guise of teaching Judaism are a bunch of frauds. I told him, I said my response to him is specifically that. If someone does not observe the Torah, look how dangerous you could be. The fact that someone is a charlatan and causes pain, that's proof and that's evidence how dangerous we could be as humans without Torah to guide us and to give us moral direction. Yes. So what if the guy is this is a really righteous, but he's not really righteous. If someone's raping little boys, he's not really righteous. Yeah. And that shows that the pain that can ensue from such a behavior ever more so proves how we have to have morality in our lives and the importance of Torah as a guiding compass for what we do and how we behave. And how, what happens to someone who doesn't have any moral code? How dangerous is that for society?
Also, to the extent to which the bothersome is even more increased in my mind, where the crimes by a Jew further confirms anti-Semitism, whether it's Andy Fastow at Enron or Bernie Madoff. Yeah. It's not just the Torah. It also helps feed. Oh, look at the Jews with the money. They rip off everyone. They're clever people. And so that is the other issue here. Yeah. That I think a Christian stealing money from people doesn't,
But the irony with
but for us, those kinds of crimes are really particularly disturbing because if you're predisposed to anti-Semitism, it just helps feed
reinforce it.
Exactly. Yeah. But the irony on Madoff is all of his victims were Jewish. That's
Yeshiva University and Fred Wilpon.
You would think some Nazis would be supportive of him.
Yeah, Elie Wiesel was one of them.
12 o'clock. We still have a few more questions unanswered.
Oh, yeah.
We need to have part 2 of this.
Part 2, let's do it.
Oh, yeah. We can go on for